Ramakrishna Vivekananda Ashrama in Karnataka and Bijapur. He is a graduate and was a bank employee in his pre-monastic days. Very early in his life, he came under the influence of the inspiring life, work, and philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. Swamiji is a very dynamic personality and well-known speaker on Vedanta philosophy, science and religion, teachings of Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and Sri Sharada Devi in Karnataka. He has led enormous youth conventions, teacher conventions, and Bhakti Sammayanas all over Karnataka. In 1984, Swamiji founded Vivekananda Seva Kendra in Mangalore, Bijapur district, which has now become a free residential school for orphans and underprivileged children. He has adopted children of Kardi martyrs and is giving them free education till 10th standard in his residential school. Later in his life, Swamiji came under the influence of Swami Purushottomanandaji Maharaj, a senior monk of the Ramakrishna order, and under his instruction, Swamiji took sannyas in 1992. With that introduction, we at Chinmaya Mission Poland welcome Swamiji, and just a quick announcement, please make sure to silence your phones. Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. As it is custom among us Hindus, let me commence the session with one Vedic chanting and one or two bhajans. We may spend about 10 minutes in that direction. Later on, we come back to the subject proper, a talk on the subject, universal dimensions of spirituality. You come here. We commence with the chanting of Narayan Sukta. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Gadanam Tva Gadapatigum Havamahe Kavin Kavin Upavashrabastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Shunvannotibhisse Dasadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajidivati Dhinama Vitravat Ano Divo Brahata Parvatada Saraswati Yajata Gantu Yajnam Vagdevyai Namaha Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sahasrashirusham Devam Vishvacham Vishvashambhuvam Vishvam Narayanam Devamaksharam Paramadam Vishvatah Paramandityam Vishvam Narayanagam Harim Vishvamevedam Purushastad Vishvabhupajevati Patim Vishwasyatmeshwaradum Shashvatam Shivamachyudam Narayanam Mahagneya Vishwatmanam Parajadam Narayana Paro Jyotiratma Narayana Paraha Narayana Param Brahma Tattvan Narayana Paraha Narayana Paro Dhyata Dhyanam Narayana Paraha Yaccha Kinchit Jagat Sarvam Drishyate Shruyate Piva Antarbahishcha Tat Sarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthitaha Anantamavyayam Kavigum Sabudrentam Vishvashambhuvam Padmakosha Pratikashagam Hrudayanchapyadhomukham Adhodishtyavitastyante Nabhyamuparitisthati Jwalamalakulam bhati Vishwasyajatanam mahate Santatagum shilabhistulam bhatyako
Tasyande sushiragam sotkantasmin sarvam pratishtitam
Tasya madhye mahanagnir vishvarcha विश्वतो मुखः सोऽग्रभुग्विभजन् तिष्ठन्नाहारमजरः कविः तिर्यगोर्ध्वपथशायिष्मजस्तस्य सन्तता सन्तापयति स्वं देहमापादतत् तस्य मध्ये वह्निशिखा अणियोर्ध्वा नीलतो जदमध्यस्थाद्विद्युल्लेखेव भास्वरा नेवारशोकवत्तन्वि पीताभास्वत्यणोपमा तस्याः शिखाया मध्ये परमात्मा व्यवस्थितः स ब्रह्म स शिवः स हरिः सेन्द्र सोऽक्षर परमस्वराट् ऋतगुं सत्यं परं ब्रह्म पुरुषं कृष्णपिङ्गलम् ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमो नमः ॐ नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु There is one Krishna Namavali. Lord Krishna is here. Let us first seek his blessings. Please repeat as I say. Madhyamati. Madhyamati. Devadeva. Deva 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 Krishna Deva 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 Krishna Dina Bandhu Pahi Mam Deva 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 Krishna Dina Bandhu Pahi Mam Nila Megha Shama Krishna Nitya Mukta Rakshama Putana Samhara Krishna Bhuvananatha Pahi Mam Putana Samhara Krishna Bhuvananatha Pahi Mam Pundarika Nayana Krishna Punya Rupa Rakshamam Pundarika Nayana Krishna Punya Rupa Rakshamam Venugana Lola Krishna Vimalanatha Pahi Mam Venugana Lola Krishna Vimalanatha Pahi Mam Vishwarupa Vasudeva Veera Rama Rakshama నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
దేవ 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 కృష్ణ
దేవ 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 కృష్ణ
దీనబంధు పాహి మాం
దీనబంధు పాహి మాం
దేవ 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 కృష్ణ
దేవ 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 కృష్ణ
దీనబంధు పాహి మాం
దీనబంధు పాహి మాం
నీలమేఘ శ్యామ కృష్ణ
నీలమేఘ శ్యామ కృష్ణ
నిత్యముక్త రక్ష మాం
నిత్యముక్త రక్ష మాం
పూతన సంహార కృష్ణ
పూతనా సంహార కృష్ణ
భువననాథ పాహి మాం
భువననాథ పాహి మాం
పూతన సంహార కృష్ణ
పూతనా సంహార కృష్ణ
భువననాథ పాహి మాం
భువననాథ పాహి మాం
పుండరీక నయన కృష్ణ
పుండరీక నయన కృష్ణ
పుణ్యరూప రక్ష మాం
పుణ్యరూప రక్ష మాం
పుండరీక నయన కృష్ణ
పుండరీక నయన కృష్ణ
పుణ్యరూప రక్ష మాం
పుణ్యరూప రక్ష మాం
వేణుగానలోల కృష్ణ
వేణుగానలోల కృష్ణ
విమలనాథ పాహి మాం
విమలనాథ పాహి మాం
వేణుగానలోల కృష్ణ
వేణుగానలోల కృష్ణ
విమలనాథ పాహి మాం
విమలనాథ పాహి మాం
విశ్వరూప వాసుదేవ
విశ్వరూప వాసుదేవ
వీర రామ రక్ష మాం
వీర రామ రక్ష మాం
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
నందనందన ముకుందనాథ
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
రాధా కృష్ణ పాహి మాం
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఇందువదన మందహాస
మందహాస
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఇందువదన మందహాస
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఈశ కృష్ణ రక్ష మాం
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
అచ్యుత కేశవ హరి నారాయణ
అచ్యుత కేశవ హరి నారాయణ
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
ఆత్మా రామ ఆనంద రమణ
అచ్యుత కేశవ హరి నారాయణ
అచ్యుత కేశవ హరి నారాయణ
భవ భయహరణ వందిత చరణ
భవ
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
सच्चिदानंद श्री सत्यनारायण
सच्चिदानंद श्री सत्यनारायण
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
सच्चिदानंद श्री सत्यनारायण
सच्चिदानंद श्री सत्यनारायण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण
अच्युत केशव हरि नारायण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
आत्मा रामानंद रमण
अच्युत केशव हरिनारायण
अच्युत केशव हरि नारायण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
भवभयहरण वन्दित चरण
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
आदिनारायण अनंत शयना
सच्चिदानंद श्री सत्यनारायण
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 आत्मा राम आनंद रमण जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयोश्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sakhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Vireshwarananda Dayamrutabdhim Shri Ranganathancha Vijnana Bhanum Chidananda Rupa Shri Purushottamariyam Dhyayan Hrudisthan Krutinam Hyavaimi Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padashankaram Lokashankaram. Dear friends, I am so happy to come here again after 5 years. Whenever I come here, I feel like coming back home. Many of you perhaps may not know my background. A little bit of that was read out, but there are so many things more than that. In fact, the first person that inspired me into monastic order was Swami Chinmaya. I was still a student in Bangalore at that time, pursuing my degree studies in the National College. If any are there from Karnataka, they will have heard about that college, great college, wonderful college, where I was a student. I think I was in first year degree at that time. The Bhagavad Gita, Gita Jnana Yajna was organized by local Chinmaya mission authorities in the very ground of our college, National College grounds. My hostel was very much nearby, Ramakrishna students' home, started by one Swami, Gopal Swami Iyengar, who also was one of the founders of this great national college too. It went on for about a week. I think the chapter that Maharaj discussed was Sannyasa Yoga. I think I attended about 3-4 lectures. I could not make anything out of the theme that he discussed, but I was thoroughly impressed by the command he had over the language. Then and there itself I decided, if at all I ever should be a speaker in English language, I should be like him. So that was the first impression that he made on me. And of course, Gita Jnana Yajna would, after all, last only for about a week's time. No longer than that. It was over and everything fizzled out. I could never hear about Chinmaya later. I didn't know where he came from. I just knew his name. I knew there was some local setup promoting Chinmaya mission interests. I never knew where that local group was. I could not later continue at all my contact with the organization. But some sort of hunger was created in me. I knew there was Ramakrishna mission very much nearby. I started going over there, came across Swami Vivekananda's works, wonderful works. Local magazine was there, monthly magazine, and 2-3 English magazines were also there. One issued from Madras, bearing the title Vedanta Kesari. The title itself was so catchy. And another one was Prabuddha Bharata, issued from Calcutta, again Ramakrishna Mission Journal. After about 2-3 years, I chanced to go to Indiranagar Chinmaya Mission Center. There, to my surprise, I don't know whether I could use that word at all, there was beautiful Vivekananda photo there. That was a great occasion for me. Oh, Vivekananda is here also. He is equally here also. So my catching hold of Vivekananda and his philosophy is very much in fitness with my beginning that I had at the hands of Chinmayanandaji in its own way, in its own subtle way. And ultimately everything distilled down to the point that all are following Upanishadic tradition, be it Chinmaya mission, be it Ramakrishna mission, they all follow Upanishadic tradition only. I am well into that stream of great Upanishadic thought, practicing in my own way, and in the meanwhile, there also took place what you can call as my initiation into monastic order. 1993, that was the very year Chinmayanji attained Mahasamadhi. That very year, I got my sannyasa also. And today, I am before you. And whenever I go to any Chinmaya center, not only here, wherever I go, I visit Chinmaya centers. Just as I visit Ramakrishna centers, I visit Chinmaya centers too, in Dallas. For example, 5 years ago, I had been there. And I had been to Chinmaya center, I visited. I paid a visit. Swamiji became very close to me. And he referred to Sunday classes that they are conducting for children and all that. About 2,000 boys and girls attending that Sunday classes and undergoing marvelous training program under the lines of Indian spiritual tradition. All these things are really very great. We are proud of this great institution. We are very happy at the services that are being rendered by this great Chinmaya order. I had been to headquarters also, Powai Lake in Mumbai. For about half a day, I was there. That is how my connection is with this great organization. With this introduction, let me enter into the discussion that we are expected to hold about. That is the universal dimensions of spirituality. Whenever we mention the word spirituality, normally, especially for the younger generation, what is the picture that looms large before them? It's perhaps meant for all those people who are aged above 60. People that are aged above 60 alone should find some relevance with this subject, spirituality. We in the teens, we in the early 20s, early 30s, what do we have to do with that? And most of the parents in India also, I do not know how the situation is here. In India, when college going boys and girls, sons and daughters, chance to go to any Ramakrishna center, Chinmaya center, any spiritual center, parents raise an objection. This is not the thing that you have to do at this stage of life. You have to rather study physics. Your vocation should be with mathematics or economics, engineering, medicine. What are you going to do with that Swamiji? What will he do for you? Does he give a ranking in medical course? Your CET examination? Your this, that, triple IT, this, that, and so many courses are there in India. Will he help you in any way? All such unnecessary questions will arise. All these things are taking place, even in India, supposed to be the homeland of spirituality, because true spiritual picture, true spirituality is yet to reach the body politic of the country. People coming to Bal Vihar classes may know something about that. And in Ramakrishna circles, we hold Vivekananda Balak Sangha. There, Vivekananda Yug Sangha, Vivekananda Balak Sangha. There, the young men may come to know something about that. But what about the rank and file, the body politic of the country, the younger generation? Younger generation, which is supposed to be in touch with the real and the true spiritual spirit, as understood, discussed, assimilated, and propagated by Indians. Remember, spirituality should be the beginning of any academic training, and it should be the conclusion of any academic training. The LKG of a boy should commence in spiritual sense, and the doctorate of a man must conclude with a spiritual concept. In spirituality, it should start. In spirituality, it should end. Because spirituality means knowing the source of strength. Everybody is in search of strength. We send our boys and girls to schools and colleges only to enable them to gather some strength. They want power. Power is a form of strength. They want to pass IAS, IPS examinations, so on and so forth. I do not know how administrative courses in America are called. In India, IAS, most coveted course. One of the boys that grew up in my own ashram recently, a coolie boy, passed IPS in the very first attempt, and it was big news in all Kannada newspapers, English newspapers. IAS. People want power. Our boys and girls, our sons and daughters, we all wish, should become powerful. They should pass high-level examinations. Your spirituality will give it. That's how India has conceived. And we want strength, we want glory, we want goodness, saintliness. Our boys must become virtuous. There should not be any blemish with them, pure. They should be sterling characters. Pristine purity must be the order of the day with them. That should characterize their personalities and all that. All those things we want. What is the music for following one course for the purpose of power, for pursuing another course for the sake of glory, and pursuing some other course for the sake of your purity, pursuing some other course for the sake of your economic well-being? Spirituality is the one which in one stroke will give all these things. I do not know how many of us have taken cognizance of this beautiful factor that is clearly discussed in the Upanishadic literature, in no ambiguous terms. How many statements are there running through the Upanishadic literature that expound this particular theme? Perhaps we might not have paid attention. Don't we come across a statement in Mundukopanishad where the student will ask the teacher, Kasminno Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvam Idam Vijnatam Bhavati? If this one particular sentence is understood by us properly, in the way it should be understood, then no one would like to be away from spirituality. This is spirituality according to Indian lines, according to Upanishadic lines. How does the question run? Kasminno Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvam Idam Vijnatam Bhavati. Nowhere else you might have seen a student of this type. Perhaps Nachiketa must have been one such, Acharya Shankara must have been one such, Narendranath must have been one such, Chinmayanandaji must have been one such. What a beautiful question the student has put to the teacher. Kasminno Bhagavo Vijnate Sarvam Idam Vijnatam Bhavati. Sir, what is it by knowing which I can know all? I want to know everything under the sun. I am not interested in just knowing medical knowledge and leaving aside electronics. I don't want to just know something about economics and leave aside all aspects pertaining to the knowledge of economics. I want to know economics in its totality, medical knowledge in all its totality, every technical course, everything I want to know. If there is anything that can be known by a human being, that should be my possession. That must be within my pockets, at my wish, at my will. This is the audacity of the man. Such audacities are very good. They augur well for our health. Your Barack Obama has written a book that bears the title Audacity of Hope. Even before he became president, he has written this book, Audacity of Hope. This is the sort of the audacity we want. Sir, what is it? By knowing which I can know everything. My question is, when a student could ask this question, you think he might not have asked a question like, sir, what is it? By having one, we can have all. On similar lines, this is the propensity of the man. There is no doubt about that. He has expressed his propensity only on academic lines, and therefore the question emerges. This question has escaped his lips. Sir, what is it? By knowing which I can know all. It is same as asking, sir, what is it? By having which I can have all. He might have asked in later course of his life. He might have asked this question too. Spirituality means a means whereby you can have all. Whatever you want, you can get. Wish something, and that is yours already. If that possession, if that ability, spirituality cannot give, I don't think Upanishadic says must have imparted all the glory that they have to this great pursuit of knowledge you can call as spirituality. Taittiriya Upanishad does not lag behind. It gives its supplementary statement to Mundukopanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad says, Brahmavit apnoti param tadeshadhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman so oshnute sarvan kaman saha. Observe this statement. So oshnute sarvan kaman saha. It is said, all his desires are fulfilled. What does it mean? Brahmavit apnoti param. The knower of Brahman will get to everything. Apnoti, he possesses everything. Brahmavit possesses everything. Tadesha bhyukta. In that connection, it is said like this. Brahman is Satyam, truth of truths, the whole of the truth. Jnanam, knowledge of everything. Anantam, in its infinite proportion. It is truth, it is knowledge in its infinite proportion. There is no power that is greater than knowledge. Infinite knowledge is there with the knower of Brahman. Satyam Jnanam Manantam Brahma. Yoveda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. Soshnute, again it is said, Sarvan Kaman Saha. All his wishes, all his desires are fulfilled. All these things will ultimately go to tell you very clearly, in the clearest terms, spirituality is a means whereby you can get the infinity. It is a means for establishing yourself in the infinitude. And the tragedy with the man is that he doesn't like to be infinite. He doesn't like to be infinite. He wants to be in his own narrow setup, narrow framework, narrow domain. Ask any person who he is. What does he say? I am Mr. So-and-so, Ram Rao. I belong to Bangalore. My house is in Baswanagudi. I am 50 years old. I am manager Canara Bank. This is my daughter. This is my son. My father was Narayan Shastri. So on and so forth. Should that be the parameter that the man should use, having been so much educated, to give whereabouts of him, to give some picture of what he is, to put it in the language of modern algebra? Should that be the coordinates of the man, with the help of which I can identify who he is? For the first time in human history, spirituality will say, these are not the things that you can count as your characteristics. These are not your gunas. And unless you know guna, you cannot know the guni. This is a beautiful topic in Vedanta. That is where the clash between Buddhists and Vedantins arose. Buddhists went on saying there is only guna and no guni, and Vedantins, mainly Advaitins, they put aside the argument of the Buddhists when they said guna and guni are one and the same. You can never have guni without guna, just as you can't have guna without guni. So these are all the gunas with which you want to picturize yourself, depict yourself. Long ago, Vedanta has said all these pertain to variables pertaining to you and not what really you are. There is a variable dimension in you and there is a permanent dimension in you. Every man is a combination of variable dimension and the permanent dimension. A temporary dimension, so to say, permanent dimension. You can even call it as the real man and the apparent man. Or to put it in Vedantic terminology, Aham and the Atman. Vivekananda gave a beautiful lecture about this in New York 125 years ago. The real and the apparent man. Even today you can find it in complete works of Swami Vivekananda that runs into about 15 pages. An elaboration of which is what you find in today's market. A book bearing the title Man the Unknown, written by one Alexis Carrel, because of which he got one Nobel Prize. Vivekananda's theme was elaborated by a man and the man was given Nobel Prize. Everywhere you see this book, Man the Unknown, very famous book, written by an American scientist. Man the Unknown, that is nothing but an elaboration of Vivekananda's talk, the real and the apparent man. Knowing the real man itself will go a long way in giving you all the benefits pertaining to the real man. All the benefits that are the characteristics of the real man. Because Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. Know Brahman and you have become Brahman itself. Merely knowing Brahman, you can become Brahman. Spirituality is knowing Brahman. When I say knowing, I do not mean to say you have to go through some pages pertaining to the description of how Brahman is. That is not the thing. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Through these techniques, you have to hear about Brahman, then assimilate the Brahmanhood, enter into some sort of upasana, some sort of rigorous tapasya, as it is explained in Sadhana Chatushtaya, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka, Samadhi Shat Sampatti, Ihamutra Phalabhoga Viraga, Mumukshvatvam. All these trainings, all these phases you have to go through, and that Brahman nature, Brahmanhood, must become an integral part of your very being itself. That's what I mean by saying knowing Brahman. Knowing Brahman and knowing your own self are one and the same. See how much immediate relevance the subject of knowing Brahman commands. Don't you want to know who you are? Okay, you need not evince any interest at all in knowing Brahman. You need not evince any interest. Should you not evince any interest at all in knowing who you are, supposed to be the most fundamental of all questions that you come across in your lifetime. Who you are. Should we not know that? There lies the tragedy with the whole humanity. We never know who we are, and we want to do so many things for enriching ourselves, for making our life meaningful, for enriching ourselves, for carving some sort of an international standing for us, without knowing, are those things needed at all? Are those things needed at all for you? You need any standing at all? You need any international standing at all? You need to possess this at all? You need to possess that at all? Without knowing all those things, we are busying ourselves in the acquisition of all those things, without knowing whether they are required for us at all. Because you are trying to get all those things, to possess all those things, in the absence of what definition you should know about your own self. Who are you without knowing that? Without fulfilling this fundamental requirement, we are entering into all those areas. Vivekananda teaches at some point, he says, teach yourself, teach everyone his true nature. Power will come, purity will come, glory will come, goodness will come, everything that is excellent will come once the sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. Unfortunate, we are not at all given to this sort of an approach towards anything. We teach our boys about so many things that find a place in periodic table. About 105, 110 elements are there. This is that, oxygen is like that, hydrogen is like that, iron is like that, and all those things. But one thing we forget. Whenever we are teaching all these things, we are never teaching them the truth about any of those things. We are not teaching any truth. Even an element of truth we are not touching upon. We say, this is iron. We hold some iron piece and say, this is iron. Is that really iron? Okay, at high school level or primary school level, we need not bother about all those things. At least at college level, we have to tell the students what exactly it is. We say, we hold some piece of some object there in the hand and we say, this is iron. Is it really so? Is that so? It is iron at such and such a temperature, at such and such a pressure. Suppose I raise the room temperature to 5000 degrees centigrade. Does it remain iron at all? I raise the temperature, I lower the pressure to some degree, whereby the particles that have become an agglomeration, that have agglomerated themselves into this particular piece of an object, all diffuse away in different possible directions. When pressure is reduced to certain level, under such circumstances, at such an atmospheric pressure, does it remain iron? At some high temperature, does it remain iron? In this very room, Say for practical purposes, let us go for one example. In this very room, when I raise the temperature to some 5000 degrees centigrade, and when I lower the pressure to some atmospheres, does it remain iron at all? Then why do you say it is iron? When you point out towards an object, your finger, and say it is iron, that must be iron under all circumstances. That is when you are telling, you are giving some truth about it. Otherwise, you are not giving truth about the object. You are giving some information about the appearance of the truth, and you are not saying anything about the truth of the object. That is how our education is being a limited process. We never touch the core, we never touch the truth about anything. Having been caught up in that habit, when it comes to knowing about our own selves, we identify ourselves with the physiological features, with the psychological features, and that's all. We never touch the core, the truth about our own self. And therefore, when to know, when should I know who I am, what I am? And unless I know who I am, how can I formulate my daily routine at all? How can I fix my aim in life? Without knowing who I am, what meaning is there for my aim in life? Without knowing who I am, what meaning is there for the friend circle that I have formed? Without knowing who I am, what is the meaning when I say, I lacked this, I want this? Without knowing who I am, what is the meaning if I say, or if I give this statement, I have so much? No statement that you make about your own self will have any sense if you don't really know who you are. Once you know who you are, all these questions, all these statements will become irrelevant. Our pursuits will become irrelevant. Our possessions will become irrelevant. Are we not living in a life that is totally irrelevant for us? What meaning is there, what purpose is there in living a life that is absolutely irrelevant for you? Therefore, long ago, the definition for truth that India has given is yadrupena yan nishchitam tadrupam nav yabhicharati tat satyam. Shankara emphasizes a lot on this. Yadrupena yan nishchitam. If a particular substance is found in certain form, and if it is found in the same way, in the same state, under all circumstances, then alone it is true. Otherwise, it is just a name and a form. And knowing who I am is the real spirituality. How many times so many Upanishads have emphasized on the topic, Atmanam Vidhi, know who you are. Atmanam Vidhi, know who you are. Who are you? Know thyself. This particular piece of wisdom, this wisdom was borrowed from India to Greece, and when they started their academy in the suburbs of Athens, the dictum for that university, that is center of education, was this only: man, know thyself, know who you are. And remember, this wisdom was taken away from India. Greeks took this wisdom from India and they adopted there. So, knowing who I am is the most relevant subject that I can come across in my life, and that is the most beneficial subject, and that is the summum bonum, the be all and end all of any educational training that a man is supposed to go through. If at all he wants to have a true and meaningful education for him. There lies all the source of your power. Vivekananda used to explain this with one beautiful episode sort of a thing. One cub grew up in the company of sheep. It was a cub. Somehow it grew up in the company of a flock of sheep. When you grow up in the company of some people, remember, without your knowing, they will be exerting tremendous influence upon you. Therefore, you have to be extremely careful about certain things in your life. Who is the role model that you have fixed for yourself? You need to be extremely careful because your role model will mold your personality. You may be or you may not be aware of it. You can even conduct this experimentation on a handful of people. Your role model will decide your personality. Your friends will decide your personality. Long ago, of course, they have formed this beautiful proverb. Tell me about your friends, I will tell you who you are. That piece of wisdom is there. It is there in vogue since ages. So your friends will always tell upon the sort of the character that you are molding yourself into. This cub grew up in the company of sheep. The impression grew upon that it was one among the sheep. It never knew its origin. It thought about itself as a sheep only. Whenever it would sight a wolf, it would become very much frightened, it would run away. Whenever it would see an antelope, it would run away. Even when it would see a dog, it would run away. It was living typically like a lamb. After some time, some other lion from the neighboring forest came. It saw this. For some days, it observed the movements of this cub-looking or lamb-looking cub. It observed the movements. It wanted to teach a lesson. One day it came and met it and took the cub away, and it said, "You are like me, a lion. You belong to the species of lion. You are no lamb. You are a cub. One day you will grow to be a full-fledged lion like me. Why are you living like this? Does it befit you? It's unbecoming of you. If you live like this, having been born a sheep, well, it's acceptable. You are born a cub. You belong to the species of lions. But what sort of life you are leading?" "No, I don't know, but I'm quite happy with the sort of life I have been leading. Don't disturb me. You are disturbing my peace of mind. I am okay with whatever lots I have around. So please don't make all these things enter into my mind and create unnecessary annoyance there. Please don't do it. No, I don't leave. I have to teach you a lesson. I don't let you live like this. Come along." It dragged literally to its cave. The lion dragged the cub to its cave nearby. It fed with the flesh and so many other things normally the lions would feed upon. And it also taught how to roar. Forcibly, it learned to eat its proper food, and it also learned to roar. After some time, the idea dawned that perhaps I might have been a lion too. I am a lion too, perhaps. And the idea started growing in the mind. Whatever you feed your consciousness with, it accepts. And it becomes consolidated there. Consolidation gradually will come, provided there is a conducive atmosphere around. After some time, when it realized that it was lion in toto, it was a full-fledged lion, then it started enjoying the grandeur, the glory, the beauty associated with the truth of what it was, the truth about what it was. It did not acquire anything anew. It did not acquire anything anew. It never underwent a training about how to assimilate certain features pertaining to the species of lionhood. It did not newly acquire anything. The ability to roar was already there. All its kingliness, all kingly features that normally a lion commands were already there. Whatever it later got, every bit of that, everything was already there. Instead of learning anything, what it did was, it had to unlearn so many things. Friends, remember, this is typically spirituality in Indian context. This is Vedanta. You need not acquire anything. There is nothing for you to newly acquire anything. Now that you have acquired humanhood, that is enough. Why would otherwise Shankara sing the glory of a man like Durlabham Trayame Vaitat Daivanugraha Hetukam Manushyatvam Mumutshutvam Mahapurusha Samshaya? Mumutshutvam means Your propensity to inquire into all these details. Many will not have this propensity. Even being forced to all those things, many would not do. If you have this natural propensity to inquire into who really you are, it's a great blessing that God has conferred upon. It's a privilege that you are born with. These three things are great privileges, Acharya says in that shloka. Durlabham, very rare indeed. Trayam eva etat, these three. Daivanugrahetukam, unless you are blessed by Lord, you cannot be in possession of any of these three things. Manushyatvam, human birth. Mumutshutvam, to inquire into who I might have been. Perhaps who am I? Never go by your experiences. This is another important lesson we have to know. Remember, all my discussion is around the point who you are. Supposed to be the most fundamental of all the questions. Man should come across in his lifetime. Man comes across. If he doesn't come across, he should come across. We have to tell every child, right from its birth, who it is, who he is, who she is. Vivekananda has said that. If ever I would be a householder, and if ever I will have a baby, even while swinging its cradle, I tell him, you are Atman, you are birthless, you are deathless, you are Brahman, you are Atman. Like the Queen Madalasa has said that in that Mahabharata we come across. There was a great Queen Madalasa who used to always, swing this cradle, singing the glory of the Atman, and the kids would listen to it, and one after the other, when they come of age, they would leave the house, go away, and become great sages. 4 or 5 such sages turned out from that house because of the inputs that mother used to give at that tender age. Vivekananda says, I would have done if I were a householder. So therefore, fundamentally, we will have to simply know who we are. You need not acquire anything. You need not gain anything. You need not earn anything. Everything is there innate. Everything is given to you by birth. If knowing oneself is not universal, I think there is no subject in this world more universal than knowing who you are. Who you are. Because that is the most fundamental of all the questions that we may come across. And the knowledge pertaining to that question is the fundamental of all knowledge that we are supposed to acquire in our lifetime. Merely by knowing who I am getting everything that unnecessarily and otherwise I am pursuing. All our actions, all our trainings, all our educations ultimately will bring us to the point of merely knowing who you are. Once this cub came to know, when this lamb cub came to know that it belonged to the species of lions, everything that a lion normally possesses came to it. In the absence of this knowledge, it was leading a very wretched life. Everything was there, but nothing was to be used. Nothing could be used at all. When I said this to students of Singapore University in Singapore way back in 2007, one of the students got up and said, Swamiji, I totally agree with you. A lion can behave like a lamb, a sheep. I have seen it with my own eyes. I used to go to one monastery in Bangkok, he said. I used to go to one monastery in Bangkok where the lamas of that monastery every day morning would take a lion for a walk, for a morning walk. A lion would accompany these lamas. They take the lion for a walk. And it never knew what it was. To this extent, your ignorance about your own self can damage your life, your position, your innate acquisition. What you can be will be totally gone in the absence of the knowledge that you are supposed to possess about your own self. So, friends, this is the universality of spirituality. Spirituality, we know the Sanskrit term that we use for the word spirituality in Indian context is Adhyatma. Adhyatma, strictly speaking, means knowing Atma. All these days we have been knowing only about the ego. Ego means the picture that you have carved about your own self. Whatever may be the picture you may carve, it will not be up to what really it should have been. And whatever picture you may carve will be born of the delusion, and it has nothing to do with the truth. This aham is something delusory. Vedanta very clearly says. About 50 years ago, British psychiatrists also did lot of experimentation about that, and they came out with a startling finding pertaining to this particular concept. They have defined ego. You know what is meant by ego? Ego is the self-image, the picture that we carve about our own self. Whatever may be the picture that you are carving, that is definitely not up to what really you are. This picture can never calibrate itself with the truth about your own self. Therefore, one way of knowing my own self is to go on negating whatever that may come to me as the concept that I have about my own self. Rightly, Vedanta has put it. Neti, 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 na iti. Not just this, not just this, not just this. I am not just this. I am not just this. Then what are you really? Tadunatyeti kaschana, yetat vaitat. There is nothing that can equate itself with the Atman. There is nothing that can stand a comparison with the Atman. Kathoparishad says. Yama tells Nachiketa, Tadunatyeti kaschana, yetat vaitat. Nothing in this universe, nothing in this creation can be comparable with the Atman, with the glory of the Atman. Nothing can stand a comparison. Tadunatyeti kaschana. Therefore, if really you want to have the true picture about your own self, simply negate whatever concept that may arise in your mind by saying, not this, not this, not this. British psychiatrists also, they fall in concurrence with the concept that we have developed in India, in our own land. You know what do they say about the ego? Ego is convenient, provisional, delusion with a tremendous strategic value. This is the definition they have given. If I remember their names properly, it is R.D. Lang, H.G. Wells, G.B. Wells and all those people. In biological language, they have found out what really ego is, and their definition is, it is a convenient, provisional delusion. Remember, anything that is changeable is a delusion only. And your ego, it goes on changing every minute, every second, every microsecond, every day, every year. Anything is changeable is not you. You are immutable. You are unchangeable. You can never change. As I said, yadrupena yan nishchitam, tadrupam navyabhicharati, tat satyam. That is satyam about both your own self, the subject, and about the creation, the world outside, the jagat. The objective world as well as the subjective viewer, drik as well as the drishyam. Kshetra and kshetrajna, put it in the language that you want. But what we see, it is just an appearance. Something appears as very much different from what it is. So appearance is just nama rupa, to put it in the language of Vedanta. It is just an apparent reality, and what is there really is the real reality, the apparent reality and the real reality. So convenient, provisional, delusion, underline that word delusion. Convenient, provisional, delusion. Then why the delusion should be? Why at all the creator should indulge in a business where delusion characterizes the whole process? Where is the need for him? Because he wants a strategy for what is known as the world to be created. That is the strategy that he has adopted for creating this creation. Otherwise, there is no strategy. As Shankara used to say, if Paramarthika Satya would remain as Paramarthika Satya, there won't be any Vyavahara at all. There won't be any creation at all. Therefore, Paramarthika Satya had to reduce itself to Vyavaharika Satya. As many people have misunderstood, Shankara has not totally ruled out the very validity of the world outside. He has given a lower level. He has given the status of a lower truth, that's all. He also accepts Mithya. It is not something like something that is totally absent. Mithya is Anirvachaneya Rupa. Whatever is Anirvachaneya is Mithya. Many people unnecessarily they have mistaken Shankara. So he has said this Jagat is Mithya. There is no Jagat at all, according no never. Not that. There is no Jagat at all. That is not the thing that he meant. The Jagat that is there is indescribable. Anirvachaniya Rupa. Because Maya is the substance of which the world is made. And Maya itself is Anirvachaniya Rupa. Just as the pot that is made of clay should possess all the properties of the clay, the Jagat also possesses all the properties of Maya of which it is made, and therefore it is Anirvachaniya, just as Maya itself is Anirvachaniya. Sannapi, Asannapi, Ubhayatmikano, Sangapi, Anangapi, Ubhayatmikano, Bhinnapi, Abhinnapi, Ubhayatmikano, Mahadbhuta Anirvachanaya Rupa. This is how he defines Maya as well as the world, which is the product of this Maya. So, my point is, friends, Adhyatma is nothing but simply knowing who you are. There lies the quintessence of all Vedas and Vedanta. At this point of time, I recollect to my memory one beautiful incident which you all should know. Necessarily, you should know. I narrate it, and at that, I may conclude my talk. A certain young boy, a postgraduate student, went to Tiruvannamalai some time ago. During those times, it was fashion for students of Madras University to say they had gone to Tiruvannamalai, met Maharshi, and spent some time with him and all that. Certain young man also went. It was just a trend in accordance with the trend. He met Maharshi also. You have seen Maharshi's picture in photos, silently sitting uh, without uttering a single word, only wearing a loin cloth with holy ashes smeared on the face. You all know. Maharshi was sitting like that. This is young man went there and whispered in the ears of Maharshi, "Sir, please teach me something. Please teach me something." Maharshi told the young man. Many people were there. They were all sitting there silently. Maunam Vyakhya Prakatita Brahma Tattvam Yavan. Gurost Maunam Vyakhyanam Shishyast Chinna Samshayaha. About Dakshinamurti, we see this in Dakshinamurti Stotra. Very much like that, Maharshi was silently sitting. There were so many others also sitting in front, seeking his grace in his own way. He had his own way of putting grace on the people. This boy went, "Please teach me something." He whispered in the ears. Maharshi said, "Let everyone get out. I will teach you later." The boy sat among the people. Everybody went off because it was lunchtime. Everybody went off. When lunchtime comes, no Vedanta will come in the way. Everybody went off, and the boy silently again came and whispered in the ears, "Sir, everyone has gone out. I only am here. I only am here." Maharshi again said, "Let that I also get out. I will teach you."